Welcome to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you? It's so good to see you again.
Fantastic. It's so good to see you again. I always look forward to our time together because you come to the show with such quality information for the viewing audience. Yeah. You know, someone might be watching us today for the very first time, and we should talk about the importance of what the show is about, which is planning for retirement.
That's right.
So Brian, why is that so important to plan for retirement?
Yeah, well, it's important because, first off, retirement planning has changed so much. I mean, it used to be really easy, and you and I have said this before many times on the show. Some people spend more time planning their summer vacation than they do planning their actual retirement. But I think that's because if you go back in history and you look at what retirement used to be, it used to be really simple. You know, 30, 40 years ago when you retired, you got a Social Security check and you got a pension check. Remember that? I mean, people used to have parties, you know, for retirement because they actually knew when they were going to retire. You talk to anybody today, you say, when you're going to retire, I don't know. I mean, I can remember, you know, my grandfather and his friends retiring. There was retirement parties all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because
and cake.
And cake and gold watches and
plaques.
Plaques. You don't see that anymore.
No.
You do not see that anymore. And that's because 85% of the people retiring today are not retiring with pensions. So people just don't know if they can afford to retire. That's why we created the Right Track retirement system, because people don't know whether or not they're on the right track to retire. And it's so, the Right Track retirement system really was built around giving people peace of mind of knowing when they could retire. And one of my favorite things to do is to show people, not through my opinion, but through black and white math, that they can retire actually a lot sooner than what they thought. And those are really special moments for us. I mean, I just got a really nice email from a client of mine that's been a client for over 5 years. And, you know, he wrote me a nice email thanking us for spending the time that we did and telling me that him and his wife are just over the moon about the quality of the retirement and the fact that they're actually even saving money through the cash flow that we've built for them. And it's just so good to hear those things, you know, year after year. And it's really special when somebody comes in for the first time and maybe they're really burnt out on their career and they really just want to change. But for the longest time, they just felt like it wasn't possible. And we lay out the numbers for the first time for them, and they can see that they can actually retire. And those are some emotional moments in the conference room because, you know, it's a big day for somebody to realize that they've won the game and they can actually do it. But planning is so important because we're responsible for our own retirements. You know, you think back 30, 40 years ago when you got a pension, you didn't have to worry about being responsible for it. You knew if you worked X amount of years for the employer that the pension was going to pay you for the rest of your life. You know, it was, if you died, it was even going to pay your spouse for the rest of their life. But now, you know, I call it the grand experiment because nobody knows how it's going to work out. The employers got rid of the guaranteed pensions. They replaced them with the 401k plan. I call it the yo-yo retirement plan, which stands for you're on your own.
That's good.
Yeah, you've got to figure out how to do it. How are you going to build cash flow? And the problem is, I've been practicing over 21 years, and if you look at the advice that's been given to people for retirement on how to build consistent monthly cash flow through something called the 4% rule, there's a very high probability of failure with this rule, and it's very scary because people will get into retirement without actually figuring out whether or not it can be done, and then 10, 15 years in retirement, they find out that they're going to be running short on money, and they got to go back to work. I've met with those people. I've met with those people that have relied on the advice from a big box firm that were given wrong plan advice, and the plan didn't work out, and now they have to go back to work.
And Brian,
never should be in that position.
How easy is that to find a job after you've been retired for a while, to re-enter the workforce?
Yeah, no, it's not easy. It's actually very difficult. I mean, when you get into those higher age groups, it's more and more difficult for those individuals to find work.
Absolutely.
Very difficult. Yeah. So, and not only that, but are you going to have the health and the stamina and the mental psychology to be able to go back to work at that point? I don't know. So, but planning's so important because with planning, we can make all these bad things happen on paper, and we can stress test the portfolios under certain conditions. And when you can stress test those portfolios and look at what would happen, you know, in what we call what if scenarios, what if this happens, what if that happens, now we can start to make very informed decisions of what to do with the money and how to protect ourselves from those bad things happening.
Sure, sure. So Brian, we've talked in the past about the Morningstar report. Can we dive into that a little bit further today? What exactly is that, and how does that benefit the viewers?
Well, the Right Track retirement system is all built around giving the individual clarity and peace of mind of whether or not they can actually retire and if they're on the right track. The Morningstar report is part of that system because that really allows us to lift up the hood and look at the engine, right? And it tells us a number of different financial data points. Number one, it tells us what the overall return of the portfolio has been. It tells us the risk associated with the portfolio. It tells us about the fees, the disclosed fees and the hidden fees. You know, there's a lot of hidden fees. And it really just shows the strength and probability of success of that portfolio. So Morningstar is just one component. The other component that we have to it is what we call the Riskalyze report. The Riskalyze report is very powerful because that actually identifies and quantifies the risk based on a number. So for example, risk in our Riskalyze report, it goes from 1 to 99. And you know, just to give the viewers kind of some context here, the stock market or S&P 500 has a risk score of 75. So if we run the Riskalyze report and we put all of your current financial positions into this software, and it quantifies and calculates based on all the data available on your positions that you own. It quantifies that risk number. So you know that if you're over 75, you're way riskier than the market. Which means if the market goes up, you may make more money than the market does on average, but if the market goes down, you're going to lose way more money. And that might be okay for a 30-year-old or 40-year-old, but not a 55 or a 60-year-old. You just can't have that type of risk. And what this does is this is the data and information that people need to be able to make informed decisions. You cannot make decisions without that information. Other than that, you're just buying something. We're not here to buy financial products. We're here to use financial products as a solution to solving a problem.
Absolutely. And there's a difference.
There's a huge difference. Yeah, there's a huge difference.
So let's talk about, once you run the Morningstar report, is that kind of like an x-ray, if you will, of what's really going inside? And do you give someone a printed copy of that, Brian?
That's a great question. So they get printed copies of both. They get a printed copy of the Riskalyze report. They get a printed copy of the Morningstar report, right? And this allows them to really dive as deep as they want into their current situation. And I think you gave a great example of what it's kind of like. It really is an X-ray. I mean, you know, and it just exposes everything in that portfolio. I mean, it just shows you how it trends against different asset class or the same asset classes. It shows you what would happen if there was another 2007, 2008. So it shows you what we call your maximum drawdown. That's important to know.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're in a portfolio right now, I've run Riskalyze reports where people have had their maximum drawdown. I mean, if the market went down, we're showing the maximum drawdown could be over 60%. I mean, if you're in a portfolio like that and you're 5 years from retirement or 10 years from retirement, when would you want to know that you have a potential drawdown of over 60%? Because if a market correction comes and you take a big hit like that, that's going to be tough for you to recover from. And you know, don't let the 2020 correction that we had at the beginning of the year in February and March of 2020 when the coronavirus hit, don't let that be your benchmark for how recoveries work, because we got very lucky. Typically when you have a 30-40% market correction, it takes 4 to 6 years to recover from something like that. We recovered in less than a year, but that's not the norm.
No,
that's
it's
not the norm.
Not. Well, Brian, this is the perfect time for us to open up the phone lines to the viewers at home for the very first time this week. Can you tell them what they can expect to receive by calling in?
Yeah, folks, we've worked very hard to provide you with a great offer today, and it's our Right Track retirement system. That Right Track retirement system, just like Cynthia had said, we're going to give you a number of reports. We're going to give you the Riskalyze report, which is going to quantify your risk number, right? It's going to let you know how much risk are you taking. It's also going to show you over the next 6 months, if the market goes up, how much money you can make, but it's also going to show you in the next 6 months, if the market goes down, how much money you could potentially lose. It's going to show you how much you're paying in fees. It's going to quantify how you're doing against the peers in those asset classes, whether you're underperforming, overperforming. It's going to show you where you stand stand as far as performance goes. But it's also going to show you how risky your portfolio is. And we're close to retirement. Remember, it's all about mitigating risk. We just can't take big losses like we used to in the earlier days because we just don't have the time to recover. The Right Track retirement system is also going to help you identify 5 other key areas, which is your income. Remember, we cannot retire without good income. We have to guarantee our income. We have to guarantee a portion of our lifestyle. We can't have our income at risk or potentially running out of income later on in retirement. So the Right Track retirement system, again, you've got to do your part. It's complimentary, no cost to you. 1-888-382-1298. Folks, pick up the phone, 1-888-382-1298. This is not the time to kick that can down the road and procrastinate. This is the time to step forward, lean into it, pick up the phone, and make the call because planning starts right now. We look forward to seeing you.
Brian, thank you so much to the viewers at home. The phone lines are now open. That number to call is 888-382-1298. We only have 10 spots available this week, so please don't miss this complimentary consultation with Brian. Let him make sure that you're on the right track for retirement. Again, 888-382-1298. When we come back, we're going to have so much more with Brian about how to plan your perfect retirement. Please stay tuned.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Retirement U TV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, before we went to the commercial break and I was talking to the audience about planning their perfect retirement, you and I both know that retirement is not one size fits all.
Right.
And what's perfect for someone is not going to be perfect for the person next door.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how do you design a customized retirement plan that's going to fit anyone's needs when they're sitting in front of you?
Yeah, great question. Well, you know, number one, it all starts with income, right?
Sure.
So the first thing we got to do is figure out what your income shortfall is. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So let's say that you need $70,000 a year for retirement, okay?
Okay.
And let's say between your Social Security and maybe you're getting a pension, maybe you got $50,000 a year coming in from that. So, but you need $70,000. So that means we have a $20,000 a year shortfall because you're only getting $50,000 from Social Security and pension, but you need 70. So we got to get that from somewhere. So it's a $20,000 a year shortfall. Well, if you multiply that out, you know, over a 25, 30 year retirement, and you apply inflation to that, you could be looking at really a $3 to $4.5 million shortfall.
Wow.
Right? So you can't look at it just on a monthly or an annual basis, right? Like where we're saying, hey, it's only a $20,000 annual shortfall. No, it's really like a $3.5 to $4 million, you know, retirement shortfall is what it is. Now, the reason it's important to determine whether or not there's a shortfall there is because, again, there's a whole separate set of rules or fundamentals that we want to follow if we have to generate a certain amount of income, right?
Okay.
It all depends on what that income need is. From there, we can start to build things out. Now, this is where the customization comes in, because some people, when we talk to them, will tell us that they have no desire to leave any money to their children or their family members. Well, there's a lot of different things we can do under circumstances like that. Other people will say, look, it's very important for me to get as much money as I can from my portfolio, but I also want to try to leave as much money to my kids as possible. Well, there's a whole separate set of guidelines and best practices for those types of things. So, you know, when we ask those specific questions, right, tell me a little bit about how much you need for income. Is it important for you to leave money to your children? You know, are you going to have to, do you potentially expect to receive an inheritance or have to take care of a parent at all? Do you have any need to, you know, do you have any want to give to charity? These are all things that are helping us think about how are we going to customize the plan for these individuals.
Okay.
Because, you know, somebody that says, look, you know, I don't need any income. I got plenty of money between Social Security and pensions. I just want to try to leave as much money to my kids as possible. Well, you think it would just be as simple as, well, just invest that money and hope that it grows and you leave it to the kids. But what type of investments are it in? Is it all IRA money? Because if we left the money to the kids in just IRA money, we could be looking at half of that money going out in taxes to the IRS when the kids inherit it. So if they want to maximize what they're leaving to the kids, maybe it's not a good idea to leave it in the traditional IRA account or 401k. Maybe it's better that we do a Roth conversion and then leave the kids tax-free money. Or maybe it's better that we do some type of life insurance strategy to where we can leave a really large sum of money tax-free. So again, it's through our questioning process with these individuals where the customization really starts to take place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, let me also ask you, if someone is in the viewing audience today and they're watching the show, obviously cup of coffee in hand, husband and wife, how important is it for them to come in together for the meeting with you?
Well, look, I've never planned for a married couple without both of them being there. You know, very rarely do you see a married couple that one can come in and just make all the financial decisions. So, but why it's important, whether one can make the financial decisions or not, the reason why it's so important for both of them to come in is because we're really planning for both here. I mean, you know, when we look at the scenarios, you know, I always say we can make bad things happen on paper in the planning process. So when we make bad things happen on paper, and we can look at what would happen if she would die first or he were to die first. You know, if you know, the nice thing about when people come to my conference room is I can kill their husband for them. You know,
it's legal,
it's legal, and we can bring everybody back to life. but the whole point of that exercise really is to determine, okay, if he dies first, the income's going to go from here to here. Are you going to be okay on that type of income? Are you going to sell the house, right? Are you going to move out of state? What's the plan? I'd probably move in with my kids, or I'd move down south where my daughter is. I'd be around the grandkids more. There's all kinds of, and you have to go through those discussions to really figure out what are the best moves with the plan here. Yeah.
So, and what people have said before, Brian, when they've come in to sit with you, is that they love the fact that you ask questions that perhaps the advisor they were working with before never even asked them. And so it just goes to show, it's such a testimonial to you how well you get to know each client that comes in, and they all say that you give them individual, uninterrupted time. I don't know how you do it, because I know you're so busy.
Yeah, again, systems and processes, right? Yeah. Systems and processes. And the tools that we've built out at Secure Money Advisors, it's taken me over 21 years to build. I mean, you know, I'm very involved with my industry. I do a lot of coaching with financial advisors in my industry. I look at the best practices. I look at the best technology that's available. And we bring that best technology to the table with our clients to be able to illustrate their situation in the clearest, most simplest way that we can. And, you know, the tools that we use, and a lot of the compliments that we'll get is, you know, people will say, well, why has nobody ever shown me this type of planning before? If I would have known this, I mean, I wish I would have met you 10 years ago is what they'll tell me.
I know.
And I'm always amazed by it that, you know, we're doing things that I think are so simple and basic. And it's the way I plan my own retirement. It's the way I plan my mom and dad's retirement. But it was out of my own frustration of what people were getting, because people were really getting nothing. What they were getting they were getting sales brochures and financial products that they didn't understand and no plan around it. Financial planning is exactly that. It's planning. It starts with a plan. Once we have the plan and we understand what the plan needs to do, that's only when we actually go out and buy the financial products. And that's what the Right Track Retirement System is all about. It's about building the plan, right? Once we have the plan built, then we can figure out what financial product to use. And at Secure Money Advisors, the reason why I went independent is because I wanted to come to the table and work for you, not for any specific company. I didn't want to be beholden to any company. I wanted to make sure that when I sat down with you, I could give you an unbiased opinion of what's going on with your current situation, and then go to the marketplace and find the best financial products for your current situation. The Right Track Retirement System that we've developed for you is all about giving you the tools that you need to be confident and clear going into retirement and through retirement. And what you're going to get, Cynthia and I were just talking about, you're going to get the Riskalyze report, which is going to identify your risk number. You're also going to get the Morningstar report, which is going to basically be a financial x-ray. It's going to allow us to look at a number of different data points with your current financial situation. The other thing I'm going to do for you is we're going to build out an income cash flow model for you. So you're going to see what your income is right now, whether or not you have an income shortfall, and if you do, what's the best way to maximize or fill that shortfall. And then what we'll do is we'll play with some scenarios of what happens if your spouse dies first or if you die first and what that looks like. All complimentary to you, no cost to you. It's not very often. This is only for the next 10 callers. That's 1-888-382-1298. Complimentary Right Track Retirement System. Folks, you've got to do your part. Don't kick the can down the road. Don't be one of those people that spend more time planning their summer vacation than they do their retirement plan. Take advantage of this opportunity. It's 1-888-382-1298.
Brian, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone lines are once again now open. That number to call is 888-382-1298. We have to take a very short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have so much more with Brian about how to plan your perfect retirement. Please stay tuned.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retirement UTV. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is president and founder of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, we probably have time for only one viewer question, and I'm so sad because they're so good.
Let's do
our next show like all viewer questions.
We should. Okay. I agree with that because there's so many.
Awesome.
We could just keep doing questions throughout the whole show.
How about next week?
Let's do it.
Okay. So you have a caller. Her name is Sheila, and she's calling in from South Hills, and she says, Brian, I have most of my money in a traditional IRA. I am 66 years old and I'm still working. Is it better to convert to a Roth IRA and invest? Am I able to transfer the stocks in the traditional IRA, or do I have to sell them?
Yeah, good question. So first off, I mean, it all depends because the question would be, the money that we're talking about here is Sheila, she's 66 years old. So the question would be, is she going to need to generate income from that money in, let's say, the next 5 years? Because typically when we look at some type of Roth conversion, we've got to pay the taxes in order to convert. And the question is, are we going to convert all at once, or are we going to convert over a period of time? But typically what's recommended is after we pay the taxes on the IRA, typically it's recommended that we have at least 5 years for that account to kind of rebuild itself a little bit to recover from the taxes that we had to pay out on it, right?
Okay.
So in regards to transferring the stock, if you will, she can certainly transfer the stock. She just has to pay the taxes on whatever we have to pay the taxes on in order to get that into a Roth IRA. So that's a simple thing to do. But the bigger question really is, what's going to be the need of that money in the next 5 years? Because doing a conversion may not be in your best interest if you're going to need that money in, let's say, the next year or two.
That makes sense. Yep. So, Brian, you also have a caller that came in from Pittsburgh. They want to know, Brian, I've heard mixed messages on this. What is your opinion about paying off the mortgage before retiring? That's a great question. Paying off the mortgage.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, right? And this is one that I'm 100% clear on. And there should be no question of what to do here, okay? Yeah. It's very, very simple. And this is the way you have to look at it. Let's say your mortgage is costing you $1,500 a month, okay? Well, ask yourself this. Let's say that you were investing money in a 401k plan, okay?
Okay.
And let's say that you said, you know what, I'm going to stop investing the money in the 401k plan, and I'm going to redirect all that money to paying off the mortgage. So that means as soon as you pay off the mortgage, right, you now pick up $1,500 in additional cash flow, guaranteed. Guaranteed, because the minute the mortgage is gone, I now absolutely 100% have that $1,500, okay? If I don't pay off the mortgage and I invest the money into the stock market or in a 401k plan, wherever you want to do it, right? 401ks are mostly invested in the market.
Right.
What's the probability of me being able to recreate or generate $1,500 a month from that additional money that I deposited into that 401k plan or the stock market? Is it going to work? It may not. How much money is it going to take? How much money is it going to take for you to generate $1,500 of cash flow from your investments versus paying off the mortgage? We know we're absolutely going to get $1,500 a month in cash flow if we pay the mortgage off. We don't know that if we continue to invest it. But our Right Track retirement system can run those calculations for you and figure out what the better solution would be. But I bet you, if I'm a betting man, it's going to be paying off the mortgage. But folks, this is why we do the Right Track retirement system. This is what's been offered to you on every show. It's very powerful. You're going to get the Riskalyze report, which is going to identify your risk number. You're going to get the Morningstar report, which is an x-ray, just like Cynthia said. It's going to really look at all aspects of your financial. But more importantly, if you've been wondering when to collect Social Security, you've been thinking, I really need to give myself a pension because I don't have one, or I just can't afford another loss in the market, the Right Track retirement system is going to give you the confidence, clarity you need to properly build out a written retirement plan. Folks, this is complimentary. Please take advantage of it. It's 1-888-382-1298. Don't kick the can down the road. Don't procrastinate on this one. Call in. It's 1-888-382-1298. We look forward to seeing you.
Brian, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, thank you so much for watching. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we'll see you back again next week.